had Trump's alarming move to enlist generals and admirals for his political cause. When a federal judge recently criticized the Trump administration's use of the military in Los Angeles earlier this month, he added a small but shocking footnote. After Major General Scott Sherman of the National Guard privately objected to the administration's planned military parade in MacArthur Park, the footnote revealed that Gregory Bovino, a senior official at the Department of Homeland Security, began questioning Sherman's loyalty to the country. Sherman, a 30-year veteran who served in Iraq, suddenly found his loyalty challenged by a political appointee, simply because he questioned the administration's plans. This incident illustrated the growing political pressure faced by military leaders as Trump insists on deploying U.S. forces on American soil, even suggesting that U.S. cities could serve as training grounds for troops, as he did again on Tuesday. His striking address to military generals and admirals at Quantico, Virginia, took this idea to a new level. But do America's top military leaders truly support this extraordinary plan, one that critics, including former senior officials from Trump's first term, warn could dangerously erode constitutional boundaries by militarizing domestic affairs? Many Americans appear uneasy. A New York Times Siena College poll released Tuesday showed more registered voters fear Trump using the military to intimidate political opponents than fear rising crime in the absence of the National Guard. This brings us to Tuesday's gathering at Quantico, where questions swirled over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's unusual call for generals and admirals from around the world to attend a presentation. For Trump, the event seemed designed to rally these officers behind his political agenda. In a lengthy and often rambling speech more fitting for a campaign rally than a military briefing, Trump delivered a torrent of partisan rhetoric while the officers remained silent, as protocol demands. He repeated familiar talking points, exaggerated claims, such as ending more than 6 wars, and expressed hopes of winning a Nobel Peace Prize, while repeatedly attacking Democrats. None of it was appropriate for an audience meant to remain apolitical. More troubling, Trump appeared to be trying to recruit the generals and admirals into his domestic crackdown. Together with Hegseth, he framed the military as key players in a coming fight against the enemy within: Democrats, academics, supposed far-left activists, and the media. He suggested America's cities could be used as training fields for this internal battle. Greater than "we are under internal invasion," Trump declared. It's no different from a foreign enemy, except it's even harder because they don't wear uniforms. He added, "In our inner cities, which we'll talk about because they're a big part of the war now, it's a major front." At one point, Trump said, "I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training zones for our troops, the National Guard, even the Army, because we're going to Chicago very soon." He listed San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles as unsafe places that he vowed to fix one by one, calling it a war from within. Throughout his speech, Trump tried repeatedly to draw responses from the officers, seemingly eager for affirmation. He asked whether they agreed with his "they spit, we hit" approach toward protesters. At another moment, he requested a show of hands on whether Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Keene was unfit. When no one raised their hand, as expected, Trump took it as approval of his stance. Hegseth's own remarks were equally political. While he discussed his military philosophy and the need for hardened fighters and stricter fitness standards, he also mocked the idea of a woke military, derided transgender troops, calling them men in dresses, and attacked what he described as left-leaning institutions. "The Ivy League classrooms will never understand us," Hegseth said. "The media will smear us, but that's fine. Deep down, they know the only reason they can do what they do is because of you. Similarly, Trump sought to pit the officers against Democrats. They've never respected you. They're Democrats, they never do, he claimed, positioning himself and his allies as the military's true political friends. The event marked a disturbing blurring of the line between the military and politics, an ominous sign for those worried about Trump's efforts to politicize the armed forces. Polls suggest Americans aren't on board. Beyond the Times Siena survey, other polls show the public generally opposes deploying the National Guard in U.S. cities. Still, Trump presses forward, apparently intent on preventing more dissenters, like General Sherman. "If you want to clap, clap," Trump told the silent audience. Then, half-jokingly, he added, "If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, you'll lose your rank and your future,